Shalom Aleichem Mishpochim. How are you guys? I am here with another Torah reading from my Chumash, out of my Chitas. So we are still in Vayera, and it is the fourth reading of the Torah portion of Vayera, of the book of Breshis, Genesis. Beginning with the fourth reading. The Torah is up here, Rashi is down here. Let us begin. Fourth reading begins. Verse 21, chapter 19. The angel replied to him, "In this matter, too, I have showed you favor. I will not overturn the town of which you spoke." Verse 21, Rashi says, "In this matter, too, not only will you be saved, but I will also save the whole city for your sake." This means me overturning. This is similar to before I came, after I had seen, whenever I speak of him. Torah for verse 22. "But hurry, escape there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there." The town of Bela was therefore called Zoar, meaning small, from then on. Rashi says, verse 22, right here, "For I can do nothing." This admission of powerlessness was the angel's punishment for saying, "Because we are about to destroy," where they attributed the act to themselves. Therefore, they did not leave there until they were compelled to admit that the matter was not in their power. I can do nothing. This is in the singular. From here you learn that one angel was overturning Sodom and the other angel was saving Lot, for two angels are not sent for the same purpose. The town was therefore called Zoar on account of Lot's words. It is small. Torah, verse 23. The sun had already risen over the earth when Lot reached Zoar. Verse 24. God made sulfur and fire rain down on Sodom and Gomorrah from God out of the sky. Verse 24. Rashi. God made sulfur and fire rain down. Wherever it says, I don't read that, with an addition, okay, this is a grammatical commentary. Let's go down. Made rain down on Sodom. At dawn, as it says, at dawn, as dawn was breaking, a time when the moon is in the sky together with the sun, because some of them worshipped the sun and others the moon. The Holy One, blessed be he, said, "If I punish them by day, the moon worshippers will say, if it would have happened at night when the moon rules, we would not have been destroyed. And if I punish them at night, the sun worshippers will say, if it would have happened by day when the sun rules, we would not have been destroyed. Therefore it is written, as dawn was breaking, that he punished them at a time when both the sun and the moon rule. Made sulfur and fire rain down. At first it was rain, and it then became sulfur and fire from God. It is typical of scriptural verses to speak this way, as we find, wives of Lamech. And he did not say my wives. Similarly, King David said, take with you the servants of your master. And he did not say my servants. And similarly, Achashverosh said, in the king's name. And he did not say, in my name. Here, too, it says, from God, and it does not say, from him. Out of the sky. It is to this that the verse, for with heaven he judges nations, refers. When God wishes to punish people, he brings upon them fire from heaven, as he did to Sodom. And when he wished to bring the manna, he did so from heaven, as it says, I am going to rain down bread for you from the sky. Verse 25, Torah. God overturned those four cities and the entire plain, together with all the inhabitants of the cities and the vegetation of the ground. What does Rashi say? Verse 25. He overturned those cities. The four cities were situated on one rock, and he turned them upside down, as it says. He sent his hand against the rock and overturned mountains by the root. Torah, verse 26. Lot's wife turned around, looked behind him at the destruction, and she became a pillar of salt. What does Rashi say for verse 26? His wife looked behind him from behind Lot, and she became a pillar of salt. She sinned with salt. She was punished with salt. Lot had said to her, "Give a little salt to these guests." And she answered him, "Even this evil practice you wish to institute in this place." Verse 27, Torah. Abraham woke up early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before God. He gazed upon Sodom and Gomorrah and over the whole area of the plain, and he saw a column of smoke rising from the earth, like the column of smoke that rises from a lime kiln. Verse 28, Rashi. Means a pillar of smoke in Old French. A torch or a torche is a pit where stones are burned down into lime. And this is the meaning wherever this word is mentioned in the Torah. Verse 29, Torah. When God destroyed the cities of the plain, God was mindful of how Lot had protected Abraham in Egypt by going along with his pretense that Sarah was his sister, and in recompense he sent forth Lot from the midst of the upheaval when he overturned the towns in which Lot had been living. Verse 29, Rashi. God was mindful of Abraham. How did remembering Abraham affect Lot? The answer is, God remembered that Lot knew that Sarah was Abraham's wife, and that he had heard when Abraham said about Sarah in Egypt, "She is my sister." Yet Lot did not reveal the matter because he was protecting Abraham. Therefore the Holy One, blessed be he, spared him. Torah, verse 30. Lot went up from Zoar and settled on the nearby deserted mountain, together with his 2 daughters, since he was afraid to remain in Zoar, and he and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Verse 30, Rashi. Since he was afraid to remain in Zoar, because it was close to Sodom. Verse 31, Torah. The older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man in the world to marry us in the usual manner." Verse 31, Rashi. Our father is old, and if not now, when? He may die or become unable to father children. And there is no man in the world. They thought that the whole world had been destroyed as in the generation of the flood. Breshis Rabbah. Verse 32, Come, let us give our father wine to drink and lie carnally with him, and thus produce offspring from our father. That night they gave their father wine to drink. The older daughter went and lay carnally with her father, but he was so drunk that he was not aware that it was she when she lay next to him. But when she arose, he was sober enough to realize that it was she. Verse 33, Rashi. They gave to drink wine was providentially prepared for them in the cave, so that they might produce 2 nations. And she lay with her father. But regarding the younger one, it is written, and she lay with him, without explicitly mentioning her father. Regarding the younger one, because she did not initiate the immorality, but her sister coached her. Scripture covers up for her and does not explicitly mention her shame. But regarding the older one, who initiated the immorality, the verse exposes her act explicitly. When she arose, this word, as written in connection with the older daughter, has a dot. Has a dot on the vav to tell us that he realized when she got up, but nevertheless was not on guard from drinking the following night. Rabbi Levi said, whoever is inflamed by forbidden sexual desires will eventually be fed with his own flesh. What verse was that? 33. So 34, Torah. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, Last night it was I who lay carnally with my father. Tonight, too, let us give him wine to drink, and you go and lie carnally with him, and we will produce offspring through our father. That night they again gave their father wine to drink. This time the younger daughter got up and lay carnally with him. But again, he was so drunk that he was not aware that she had laid down or arisen. Verse 36. Thus, Lot's 2 daughters conceived from their father. Rashi says, verse 36. They conceived, although Normally, a woman does not become pregnant from her first relations. These women manipulated themselves by removing their hymens, and thus were able to become pregnant from their first relations. Verse 37, Torah. The older daughter gave birth to a son and named him Moab, from father, meaning from father. He is the ancestor of the people of Moab until this present day. Verse 37, or verse 36. No, I think I read verse 37, Rashi. Moab, this one who was immodest, explicitly implied by this name that he was born from her father. But the younger one named her child in a clean manner. She was rewarded for this at the time of Moses. For it says regarding the Ammonites, do not provoke them in any fashion, whereas regarding Moab, it only warns against waging war with them, but permits otherwise troubling them. Okay. The younger daughter, verse 38, Torah. The younger daughter also gave birth to a son and named him Ben-Ami, son of my kindred. He is the ancestor of the people of Ammon until the present day. Chapter 20, verse 1, Torah. Abraham journeyed from there to the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur, coming to finally sojourn in the Philistine city of Gerar. Rashi, verse 1, chapter 20. Abraham journeyed from there. When he saw that the cities had been destroyed and wayfarers no longer passed by, he traveled away from there. Another explanation. He traveled away in order to distance himself from Lot, who had fallen into disrepute for having had relations with his daughters. Torah, verse 2. Abraham said to Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. So Avimelech, king of Gerar, sent messengers and had Sarah brought to him. Verse 2, Rashi. Abraham said, here he did not ask her permission to say that she was his sister, but did so against her will and without her consent, which he understood would not be forthcoming. For she had already once been taken to Pharaoh's house through such a ploy. To Sarah, his wife, means here about Sarah, his wife. Similarly, we find this meaning about the ark of God being taken and about the death of her father-in-law, where both times this word has the meaning of this word. I'm not good at Hebrew. Torah, verse 4. Actually, verse 3, Torah. God came to Avimelech in a nocturnal dream, saying, you are going to die on account of the woman you took. She is a married woman, and you will be guilty of adultery if you have relations with her. Verse 4. Since Avimelech had not come near her, he said, God, would you put to death even an innocent nation? Verse 4, Rashi, had not come near her. The angel prevented him from doing so, as it says, I did not allow you to touch her. This means, would you put a nation to death even if it is innocent? Is it perhaps your way to destroy nations without cause? This is what you did to the generation of the flood and the generation of the dispersion. I, too, claim that you killed them for nothing, just as you wish to kill me. Verse 5, Torah. Did her husband not say to me, she is my sister? And she herself also said, he is my brother? I did this with an innocent heart, with no intent to sin. I am with blameless hands, for I have not touched her. Verse 5, Rashi. She herself also said that she is his sister. The addition of the words come to include her servants, camel drivers, and donkey drivers. I asked all of them, and they all said to me, he is her brother. With an innocent heart, I did not intend to sin. And with blameless hands, I am clear of sin, because I did not touch her. Verse 6, Torah. God said to him in the dream, I, too, knew that you did this with an innocent heart. But you cannot claim that your hands are blameless, for it was I who spared you from sinning against me. It is because I knew that you did not intend to do anything wrong that I did not allow you to touch her. Verse 6, Rashi. I knew that with innocent heart. It is true that initially you did not intend to sin. It is true that you initially did not intend to sin. But you cannot claim to have blameless hands, meaning to say you would have potentially handled Sarah. I did not allow you. It was not of your own will that you did not touch her, but it was I who spared you from sinning by not giving you the ability to do so. Similar examples of this word, meaning permitting, are, but God did not let him, and, but her father did not let him enter. Verse 7, Torah. Now return the man's wife. Do not fear that he will not want to accept her back, for he is a prophet and knows that you did nothing to her. He will pray for you and you will live. But if you do not return her, be assured that you will die, you and all that is yours. Verse 7, Rashi. Return the man's wife, and do not think that she may have become disgraced in his eyes, and he will not accept her back, or that he will hate you and not pray for you. Avimelech said to him, Who will inform him that I did not touch her? He replied, For he is a prophet and knows that you did not touch her. Therefore, he will pray for you. Verse 8, Torah. Avimelech got up early in the morning. He called for all his servants and discreetly told them all these things, and the men were terrified. Avimelech summoned Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? What wrong have I done you, that you should bring such great guilt upon me in my kingdom? You have brought upon me things that do not normally happen. Verse 9, Rashi. Things that do not normally happen. A plague that does not usually occur among any being has befallen us through you. This refers to the closing up of all human orifices, those of semen, urine, and excrement, and the ears and the nose. Verse 10, Torah. Avimelech then asked Abraham, What did you see that made you do this thing? Abraham replied, It was because I said to myself, There is simply no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me on account of my wife if I disclose her true identity. Verse 11, There is simply no fear of God in this place. A guest who arrives in a city, does one ask him about his requirements of food and drink, or does one ask him about his wife? Is she your wife or your sister? Verse 12, In any case, she really is my sister, because she is the daughter of my father, but not of my mother. It was permissible for us to marry, and she became my wife. Verse 12, Rashi. She is my sister, the daughter of my father. And a father's daughter is permitted for a descendant of Noach to marry, since the paternal relationship is not considered a relationship for Gentiles. So, as to uphold his original statement that she was his sister, he answered them in this way. If you ask, was she not his brother's daughter and not his father's daughter? I answer you, grandchildren are like children, and thus she was considered to be a daughter of Terach, Abraham's father. Similarly, Abraham said to Lot, For we are brothers, literally brothers, but not of my mother. Haran, her father, was born of a different mother than Abram. Torah, verse 13. When God made me wander from my father's house, and I knew we would pass through lands inhabited by wicked people, I said to her, There is a favor that you can do for me. Wherever we go, say about me, he is my brother. Verse 13. Rashi. Onkelos translated this verse in his own way of translating it. When nations strayed after idol worship, God brought me close to his service from my father's house. But it could be explained in another way, fitting each word of the verse in its proper setting. When the Holy One, blessed be he, took me out of my father's house to wander and move about from place to place, I knew that I would pass through a place of wicked people. Therefore I said to her, there is a favor. This is a plural form. They made me wander. But do not be surprised at this, for in many places, terms referring to God or to authority are expressed in plural form. Whom God went to redeem, the living, a plural adjective, God, a holy God. And likewise, every form of the name is in the plural form. Every form of the name right here is in the plural form. Similarly, we find the plural form used with expressions of authority. Joseph's master took, and the Lord over lords, the Lord of the land. And similarly, if its owner was with him, and its owner had been warned, should you ask, why is the word used here? This word used here. I reply, anyone who is exiled from his home and has no settled has no settled abode is called a wanderer, as in she left and wandered. I have strayed like a lost sheep. They wander about without food. They go out and wander about to search for their food. Say literally to me means about me. Similarly, the local people asked about his wife, and similarly, Pharaoh will then say about the Israelites, lest my people say about me, a woman killed me. All right, verse 14, Torah. Avimelech took flocks, cattle, bondmen, and bondwomen, and gave them to Abraham to placate him, so that he would pray for him, and returned Sarah, his wife, to him. Verse 14, Rashi. And he gave them to Abraham, so that he be placated and pray for him. Verse 15, Torah. Avimelech said, my land is here before you. You may settle wherever you please. Verse 15, Rashi. My land is here before you. But Pharaoh said to him, here is your wife. Take her and go, because he was afraid for Sarai's safety, since the people of Egypt were steeped in immorality. Verse 16, Torah. To Sarah he said, I have now given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Let this gift serve you figuratively as a cover over the eyes of all those with you who would look askance at you because of this incident, preventing them from doing so. For anyone who may in the future cast aspersions on your behavior in this episode, it will serve as proof for your innocence. Verse 16, Rashi. To Sarah he said, Avimelech said out of respect for her and in order to placate her, I have indeed shown you this mark of respect, that I have given money to your brother, the one about whom you said, he is my brother. This money and honor will serve as a cover over the eyes of all those with you. It will cover their eyes so that they not treat you lightly. For if I would have returned you empty-handed, they could have said, after he abused her, he returned her. Now that I was obligated to spend much money and to appease you, they will know that I returned you against my will, forced to do so by a miracle. And amongst all means, and among all people in the world. This means you will thereby have an opportunity to prove your case and to point out these obvious facts. The term, wherever it appears, means clarifying matter. Okay, this is a grammatical commentary. I will not read that. Verse 17, Torah. Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Avimelech, his wife, and his bondwomen, so that they relieved themselves. Verse 17, Rashi. And they gave birth. Its meaning is as Onkelos translates it, and they had relief. Their orifices opened and they released whatever they needed to release, and this is their birth in this context. Verse 18, Torah. For God had blocked every orifice of the members of Avimelech's household on account of Abraham's wife Sarah. Verse 18, Rashi. In front of every womb means in front of every opening of the body. This means by the word of Sarah. Chapter 21, verse 1. God had remembered Sarah as he had said. God did for Sarah as he had spoken to Abraham. She bore a son. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the appointed time of which God had spoken. Verse 1, Rashi. God had remembered Sarah. This passage is placed next to the previous one to teach you that when a person pleads for mercy for another, and he himself is in need of the same thing, he is answered first. For it says, Abraham prayed, and it is followed by, God had remembered Sarah. He had already taken account of her before he cured Avimelech. God had remembered Sarah, as he had said, regarding her pregnancy, as he had spoken, regarding the birth of a son. And where was God's saying? And where was his speaking? Regarding these matters, his saying refers to God said, Sarah, your wife, will indeed bear you a son. His speaking refers to God's word came to Abram at the passage of the covenant between the pieces. And there it says, this person will not be your heir. Rather, one born from your own flesh will inherit you. And God produced this heir from Sarah. God did for Sarah as he had spoken to Abraham. Verse 2. I read that, so we will read Rashi. In his old age means that Isaac's facial features were similar to Abraham's. At the appointed time of which God had spoken, Rabbi Yudan and Rabbi Chama differ as to when this time was. Rabbi Yudan says that we learn from here that he was born after 9 months of pregnancy, so that people should not say that he was conceived in the house of Abimelech. And Rabbi Chama says he was born after 7 months. Unclose translates this of which God had spoken, referring to the designated time that he spoke of and fixed when he told him, I will return to you at the designated time. He scratched a mark on the wall and said to him, when the sun's rays reach this mark next year, she will give birth. Verse 6. Okay. Abraham named the son who had been born to him, whom Sarah had borne him, Isaac, Yitzchak. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac on the 8th day after his birth, as God had commanded him. And that is the end of for the fourth reading. So, mark that. We have, again, the daily wisdom of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, of this reading, the fourth reading of Vayera in Genesis. Today is Wednesday, the fourth reading. Breshis, Genesis, chapter 19, verses 21 through chapter 21, verse 4. After the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham moved from Chevron to Philistia. The agents of the Philistine king, Abimelech, asked Abraham if Sarah was his wife or his sister, seeing that they wanted to take her to the king. Abraham feared for his life and told them she was his sister. When the truth was discovered, the king accused Abraham of lying. Abraham replied that since Sarah was his niece, she technically was a sort of sister of his. That he had called her his sister in order to save his own life. The title of this Torah wisdom is The Foundation of Civilization. Abraham said, because there is simply no fear of God in this place, they will kill me on account of my wife. Starting the reading. In this statement, Abraham voiced the two principles underlying his life's work. The first was that making the world into a home for God means, above all, encouraging virtue and the practice of justice. The second was that it is impossible to encourage virtue and the practice of justice unless they are based on the belief in God as the creator and master of the world. History has proven Abraham right. We have unfortunately seen too many failed attempts to base morality on any other foundation. Belief in God must therefore be the underlying foundation both of our own morals and ethics as well as the education of our children. Only when we and our children know that God created the world and wants it to be made into his home through righteous and just behavior can we be assured that both we and our children will behave virtuously and justly. So that is wonderful. That is a perfect message. And that is the daily wisdom from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Chabad Lubavitcher Rebbe of the Torah portion. All right. Laila Tov, have a wonderful evening.